That movie, there's so many great scenes, and lately, we've watched lots of movies from this period, interesting. I feel like a much higher percentage of the Hollywood movies of that time were about women. The main character stars were women, and in particular, there's a large number of Joan Crawford and Barbara Stanwyck. Those were two of the biggest stars of that time, playing really great roles. And there are directors who were at their peak as the silent period was ending. So they were, when suddenly there's sound, these are the guys who are really ready and on it. There's Clarence Brown, and then I think even more. Clarence Brown. There's some movies that there's a movie with Joan Crawford that's called Possessed with Clark Gable. It's a very good one. There's one called Emma with Marie Dressler. The people who were a lot of these people who were working in vaudeville. Obviously, people who were who had their own acts, and this one has a number of great songs and musical performances, and I'm sure those, that song "Old Pal." I'm sure that those guys were had been playing for however long, Anyway, I'm kind of losing my train of thought, there are scenes I particularly love in this movie. The scene when they first stay in the rooming house and he's going to sleep in the chair. That's a great scene. The first scene with Dolly Merrick when he comes out of the bathroom. The performance, when she sees him playing the song in the theater is just such a powerful, great scene. And the other thing you see some movies from this time, these songs that would later be used over and over and over again, and they'd be in Singing in the Rain. I think here's where they first appear, and the studios own these songs and they use them repeatedly. There's another one. There's a Ruben Mamoulian film. The song "Isn't It Romantic" that's 29, maybe a couple years before this. I loved seeing it again, and I particularly love movies from this period.
What's incredible because it's as well the quality of the dialogues of this period. It's they are very I don't know how to say it in English, but a lot of they are not very strong like that. They are really the dialogues that are very Finnish. I don't know.
Subtle.
And things like that, and it was
great writing. These films, and I think something. Whether we can put our finger on what it is, but this period of films before the Hays Code and the rules that appear. Sometimes these movies are startling. What you see, there's one. The Mamoulian movie is "Love Me Tonight." Which is a very early talkie. The William Wellman movies. Wellman was somebody who was a big director in silence. He directed Wings, which is the first Academy Award, and he made so many movies during this short period of time, one after another, that are masterpieces. But the writing, they're especially well written, and there's something just electric and energetic, and I think the freedom that they had approaching these movies, the things that would become cliches, they were inventing. And then also, this is a movie that's, there are great performances, there's great writing, but it's also made by somebody who had been making silence, so the visuals are very strong, and you can feel that they're pushing themselves to win their audience and to make it something, you know, unforgettable. And you know, they're not, you know, there's no notion, I think, at that time that they're making something that we're going to be watching now. You know, they're doing something that's going to play for that. You know, it's just of its moment, and they're putting you know, all their powers into it. There's something about this new form of movies, I think. You really feel it in this period.
And they have written that when we saw it now, we don't, you know, we are trapped by the film from the first you know, image until the last one. You know, there is no, and even when they do it in Leipzig, then everything works like, you know, incredible. You know.
Yeah. You know, another thing also is that period of movies. Often the movies are 75 minutes long. You know, they're not even 80 minutes long, and yet they're telling stories where a lot happens. I mean, a lot happens to her. And also you see,
not only to her, to all the characters.
Yeah, to everybody. Yeah, and also you see a lot of the same actors, character actors, appear in film after film during this time. You know, there are also a couple of actors. There's some actors who don't really survive past this period. You know, there's one in particular who we love, Joan Blondell, who's in some of the movies with Stanwyck and Joan Crawford, but she doesn't really, her career doesn't really go past this time. And some, George Brent is one of the men who's great in that period of movies. But anyway, I hope people liked it. I loved seeing it. Did you like it?
Yes, I love it. You know, because it's this period now we don't see that much often. You know, you have to either review by DVDs or things like that. But television doesn't show anymore, and I think we've lost this relation with the cinema. You know, I think when we see now the films now and we have this background, I think we can much better to see better the films that they're doing.
Yeah. You know, there's some that I think there's so many of these that I had not really heard of. I mean, never have a conversation with somebody about them, and we started watching these Forbidden Hollywood boxed sets that Turner Classics has produced, and you know, there are movies like Wild Boys of the Road. That's a Wellman. Other Men's Women. There's one called Safe in Hell. That I think is also. Maybe that's also Joan Crawford, and they're incredibly bold, these movies. Three on a Match, that one is a masterpiece, and you know, they really startle you and grip you.
It's a kind of, you know, sometimes not in his one, but a moral, you know, field in all these films that is like freedom that you know, we even now sometimes we are punished with that.
Yeah, and you can be especially surprised to see it from a movie of that period. Three on a Match, there's a scene where Humphrey Bogart plays a small part in this movie. There's a scene where he sort of realizes what's happening in this room where they've had this kid, you know, they've had this child that they've kept hostage, and there's a moment when he suddenly realizes that she's on heroin. And he says, ah, I see, and he taps his nose, and you really are like, does that mean what I think that just meant? And you know, and it does. You know, we can do questions that are about this movie, or it can be about anything else. So.